For tens of thousands of veterans, military service was and is their first full-time job. Whether you stay for one enlistment, 15 years, or retire with 20-plus years of service, transitioning to the civilian workforce is a very real challenge. Deciding between so many options can be daunting.
Veterans in Transition is brought to you by Women Veterans Rock, the National Bankers Association, the National Medical Association, and the Color of STEM.
Hello, I'm Jim Benson, a retired Air Force veteran from a family with a tradition of military service. 3 of my daughters and only son have also served, and my eldest grandson recently took his oath of enlistment. I have experienced and witnessed a few transitions. The good news? Veterans are known as extremely motivated, highly skilled, can-do people who value excellence and are mission-focused. In this special Veterans in Transition, we profile veterans from each of the 5 branches of the military and share their stories of providing services to the government, corporate, and nonprofit sectors, and to other veterans. Listen to veterans tell their own transition stories, including important lessons learned about tapping into your military skills, networking, mentoring, volunteering, and giving back. Here now are their stories.
I'm originally from Alexandria, Virginia. Went to Edison High School and James Madison University for college. When I was in high school, I contemplated going to the Naval Academy, actually, and I applied for it and did not get accepted, but when I was accepted to JMU, James Madison University, I went through their ROTC program, and that's how I found myself in the Army. I've served in quite a few places. I went to flight school in Fort Rucker, Alabama. Then I went to Germany for an assignment there. I was deployed to Desert Shield and Desert Storm, Saudi Arabia. Went to Korea, had been stationed at Fort Lee, Virginia, and then back to the Pentagon. And my military occupational specialty was 15 Delta, which means that I was a test pilot. I also learned to fly the Black Hawk helicopter, so I flew both Hueys and Black Hawks in the Army. I bought a house in December of 2008, and I said to my husband, why don't we just put homeless people in there? And then I found out how many homeless veterans there were. I couldn't believe it. And at the time, there were 68,000 homeless veterans nationwide. We are raising funds to purchase or acquire buildings and renovate them. We hope to have some homes donated to us in this process. So our services are with the veterans, and we make sure that they get back on their feet.
Deborah found me in the shelter. She was there looking for homeless veterans for the Operation Renewed Hope Foundation organization. I did a total of almost 4.5 months there. Deborah got me out of there, got me a VASH voucher, which is for veterans to help you with housing. She got me out of that shelter within about a month and a half. She's just a fantastic person. She ought to have halo and wings.
2017 is when we will try to get folks started in here. My biggest inspiration is to know that I'm making a difference and the people that are working with me are making a difference every day. In our day jobs, we might not see it, but in this job, I do see it. I see it from somebody who's living in a tent, someone's living in their vehicle, or in a shelter. To see the night and day difference from those situations and into housing is what makes all the difference for us.
Born and raised in Pacoima, California. I went into the military to give myself another chance, pretty much. I didn't concentrate in high school as I was supposed to. I wasn't ready for after high school. And I was hoping for more, and God gave me more. God moved me from where I was at to the other side of the country in the South, which is Columbia, South Carolina. And from Columbia, South Carolina, I joined the military. Most of my education came from the military, from my experiences in leadership, 3 tours in Iraq, My MOS was 54 Bravo initially, and they reflagged us to 74 Delta, which is CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. My job is just to put us in a bubble, make sure everybody dons their mask, decontaminate if necessary, and allow us to keep fighting. I couldn't find a job initially. Very hard to find a job. Very hard. I don't have a college degree. And I can tell you on these websites, when you apply for your job, they say, well, to even get an interview, you do the online application and you click on things that you are up to that apply to you. I cannot click on a 4-year degree, so I cannot find a job that could suffice me the same way I did with the military. I signed up for school. There's a desk that says Democrats for Maryland. And I walk them by and I was like, you know what, I don't have a job right now. Let me volunteer my time. When have I ever volunteered my time? Not connected to my mom's church or something, just me, myself. And it said politics. I was like, man, politics? Long story short, I volunteered twice. It was for Doug Gansler and it was a gubernatorial race. He was running for governor. And I volunteered twice and they offered me a job. My buddy Zach told me about the job. They offered me a position to be a regional for a congressional race in West Virginia. And I was headed there. 3 days before I was headed there, I got a phone call. I'm walking from Starbucks and offered me a job as the deputy campaign manager for the Carl Racine race in D.C., the first ever people elected attorney general. So 2 weeks after that, the campaign manager quits. So now I went from field organizer, which is the lowest on the totem pole in politics, to the campaign manager. Long story short, we won in a big way. We won 135 precincts out of 143. I'm driving, stop to get gas before I go to my mom's house. A man pulls up behind me and says, "You're not a veteran." He was like, "Man, you're too young." He was like, "What's all this on you?" I said, "Man, I did 3 tours in Iraq, buddy." And we just started talking. He had an internet radio show. Next day I got right on the radio. I never knew about politics. Jumped into politics. That's why it's gotta be God. Never knew about the radio. Got into the radio. Got on and started talking instantly. Just gave me the mic and I just went to it. Heal America radio show, doing God's work, talking, working on myself, speaking, learning myself, bettering myself, constant scrutiny. What didn't the Army give me? All the rest God gave me.
A little bit about my background. Actually, I'm a military brat. I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, and my dad was in the Air Force. Well, actually, I went into the military because my father recommended. So as a result of that recommendation, I decided to try Army ROTC, and the rest is history. In the Army, I was an Army logistics officer, responsible for maintaining military equipment for the combat arms and combat service organizations within the Army. After I left the military, I went straight to corporate America. I worked for a multi-million-dollar technology company where I started off in sales and transitioned to customer service. But I thought the best way to learn a business world was to jump right in. A little bit about BLS Group. We started off initially as focusing on event planning and project management. We have recently, through partnerships, expanded our services into staff augmentation for technical specialties and healthcare. And additionally, we do administrative services and logistics support. One of the unique challenges about attempting to do business with the government is that the government doesn't want to do business with you unless you've done business with them before. We just recently celebrated our 5th year anniversary as the WAVE. Again, one of our components is to give back to our women veterans. So this year we were actually able to present a check for $1,000 to the Women's Memorial Foundation. My military experience prepared me very well for the business world. My leadership skills, organizational, problem solving, all those skills I use on a daily basis to run my business. Military also taught me how to overcome adversity and realize that failure is not an option. So if you can't do it one way, you need to figure out another way, because there is a way to get it done.
I grew up in Onley, Maryland. Back then it was a little wide spot in the road, cow pastures and cornfields and nothing there, and now it's grown, and it still feels like a hometown to me. I walked in the recruiting office and I walked into the Air Force, and the guys didn't even look up. I walked into the Navy, same thing. I walked into the Army, same thing. I walked into the Marine Corps. This guy stood up at attention. He was just locked and cocked. Every crease was crisp, and he wanted to know about me, and that did it for me. I enlisted right there. The Marines was an easy choice, really. One of the best things I've ever done in my life. I selected electronics, and so from Parris Island, they sent me to 29 Palms, California, which is the toughest school in the Marine Corps. By then, I did know the value of an education, and I worked hard, and I finished, out of 40 guys, I finished third in my class. And the top guys get to pick the next school. So I went to the basic electronics school, and then the next school, I had a choice of crypto or missile systems. And missile systems just seemed sexier. In hindsight, crypto would have been better from a security standpoint and all the things we're going through now. Old Don is the largest liquor store in Prince George's County. It's the most beautiful store I've ever seen. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but it's 22,000 square feet, 10,000 feet of beer, wine, and liquor, with a restaurant and an event space. Veterans are near and dear to my heart. And we had, on Veterans Day 2 years ago, a big display. And there were small signs that said, thank you Marines, thank you Army, thank you Air Force, thank you Navy, thank you Coast Guard. And a woman came in and said, I'd really like to have that Marine sign. My son's in Afghanistan. So I said, well, the display's coming down within the next week, so come by next week and I'll be happy to give you the sign. So she came by, and not only did I give her the sign, but I gave her an Old Line t-shirt, and I gave her a big flag with a yellow ribbon on it. It's a Miller High Life flag that says support our veterans. And she was floored. So she took this stuff and sent it to her son in Afghanistan. He sent me back a picture with his unit, and they were holding up the flag, and he was in the middle of the picture with the Old Line t-shirt on, which is awesome. And I told Catherine, the mother, that when he got back, please have him come and get a burger on me at Old Line. So he came back and brought the flag, and his whole unit had autographed the flag. So when we told Betty Buck, the Miller High Life distributors, Buck Distributing, and we told Betty Buck about this, and she was blown away. And she said, give me the flag and the photo. I want to frame these for you. So she framed them, and we have them displayed in the front of the store.
I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. My parents, Jim and Mary Duncan, were farmers. They had 7 children. I'm the 5th child. When I entered into Alabama State, they had started the ROTC program. I was one of the first women to enroll in the program. I got my commission as a 2nd lieutenant, as a medical service corps officer. And of course, I matriculated through active duty. Then I transitioned into the reserves. And I was fortunate enough to make colonel here at Andrews Air Force Base, Maryland, in aeromedical evacuation.
In transitioning from active duty into the reserves and working through, it was a thing of what would my next steps be? So in 1994, June 17th, Data Solutions and Technology was birthed. I found it for 3 reasons. I wanted to first effect change for others. Second, to be a woman-owned business that provided a great service, and to become as one of the best companies in providing services in the United States of America.
When it comes to STEM, these are areas that must be emphasized in our schools. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics, in order to be a very competitive country globally, to still stay in the race and to be considered #1 in the world. We have got to get our students to really get into these areas, to really study. And from a female perspective, oh boy, you know, it used to be the guys could only do the science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But today, it's the females that are stepping forth and really leading the way. So I truly, truly can say my service days really enforce integrity first, always doing the right thing when nobody's looking, when nobody's asked. Service before self, giving 100% or 1,000% all of the time, and always excelling in what you're doing the best that you can be at all times.
The reason I joined the military is it came from a very large family, and parents weren't going to be able to afford sending all of us to college. So I joined both for the education opportunities and the travel opportunities. I joined the Navy right out of high school, and since then have received a bachelor's degree in history, a master's in operations research, an MBA, and I'm working on my PhD in socioeconomics right now. I did a number of things right after I left the military. I immediately went to work for a defense contractor doing business development. Shortly thereafter, I had an opportunity to go into a restaurant with a business partner. And then a couple years after that, decided I needed to learn more about what this business thing was all about and worked on my MBA. Some of the skills and habits that the military reinforced in me, one is to look at problems not as someone else's problem, but as an opportunity for me to solve a problem. So Community Business Partnership is a nonprofit under George Mason University. We offer training, counseling, access to capital, workshops, and networking for small business owners, really everything from the pre-startup to businesses that are in the growth phase. We just concluded our 10th annual Veterans in Business Conference. It was started 10 years ago to support small business owners, veterans who were looking to do work with the federal government as well as with the prime contractors. We had a great year this year with guest speakers, Congressman Don Beyer and the SBA Administrator Maria Contreras-Sweet, and about 275 participants. 1, 2, 3. Community Business Partnership is comprised of now 5 individual centers. We were fortunate enough earlier this year to be selected as the 15th Veteran Business Outreach Center under the Small Business Administration. What that allows us to do is provide specific tailored services to veterans, active duty veterans, National Guard, reservists, and their spouses, any of those individuals in the military community that are looking to start a small business. I think small business owners should find what it is that makes meaning for them. To paraphrase Guy Kawasaki, who worked at Apple, if you start your business trying to make money, you'll probably not make money or meaning. But if you start out trying to make meaning, you'll probably make both.
My father was military, and also my grandfather was. I have several generations, but my father had actually left the Army when I was an infant. Their service and dedication did inspire me to serve and continue to serve as a family. We still have many members of our family serving. My daughter served. My son-in-law is serving. My niece is serving. So we're a military family. If I was going to join the military, I really wanted to do something different. So what they offered me was a tactical satellite microwave communications operator. Had no idea what it was, but knew that it wasn't going to put me in an office and was going to give me an environment different than what I would have had I not joined the military. What my military experience taught me was patience. A lot of hurry up and wait. I wanted to get things done very quickly, so it taught me to be patient and relax. It also taught me a lot about responsibility and accountability. When someone's life is on the line, it's very different than what you might face in an everyday environment. After my military service, unfortunately, it ended unexpectedly due to injury. I ended up becoming a civil servant at the time. We were still in Germany. So I had the opportunity to serve in that capacity. And then when we came back to the U.S., I worked for the VA and I went back to school. I made the decisions to start SAMS about 10 years ago. The environment was such that it was looking for innovation. And that's where the vision came to me, and I took that and ran with it and did a lot of homework and a lot of research and met many great folks and got things going. Strategy and Management Services provide services in the areas of operations, IT, and facilities management. We have 26 federal customers, and we have employees in 22 states and 2 foreign territories. We give back to the community in many ways. First off, we have a Veteran First policy in terms of hiring here at SAMS. Veterans and family members are hired first. So far, as I mentioned, we've created 150 employment opportunities with 90% of our staff being veterans or family members of veterans. We are very proud of that accomplishment. My dad was a Vietnam veteran, and growing up, I was reminded of that in some of the challenges that he faced with the demons that came back from Vietnam with him. And I never want for a veteran to come back home to that environment. So it's important to create these jobs, and it's important to let our veterans know how much they're appreciated. And we are thankful for the contributions that they've made.
I was all of the schools that were recruiting me. I was National Honor Society, had done very well at the private school that my father had sent me to. The Coast Guard was the only one to send someone to my house. And I remember this very tall, slender lieutenant coming to my house. I saw a potential future of someone that looked like me, and I was inspired by that. When I went to the Coast Guard Academy, I found an institution that cared about me and valued my contributions. I was, at that time, the largest group of African Americans to ever report to the Coast Guard Academy. Many of us chose to leave because it wasn't for us. I chose to stay. I ended up becoming the first African American to command the Corps Cadets at the Coast Guard Academy. My 4th year there. With that confidence, I graduated and went into the fleet and really never looked back. I see people as our greatest resource. Every mission starts first with thinking about our people, and that was the leadership style that I developed. It garnered a lot of success for me. I ended up serving in 6 commands, including 4 operational commands. The most pronounced one being commander of Pacific area, running all Coast Guard activities from Montana to Madagascar. I was the senior advisor to the Coalition Provisional Authority. Think of Ambassador Bremer as the president of Iraq during the time the coalition essentially controlled activities in that nation. I was essentially his Secretary of Transportation, having been previously trained by 2 secretaries of transportation. So I was responsible for restoring the function of 5 ports, including 3 major maritime ports, the airport, specifically Baghdad International, getting Iraqi Airways flying again, which we successfully did my last week there, restoring passenger service on the railroads, and restoring truck conveyances on the roads. And we had good success in a very compressed period of time. About a month before I actually left the Coast Guard, I got a call from Dr. Kathy Sullivan. Again, another unexpected offer. And she basically said, I've got this opportunity I'd like you to consider. I'd like you to consider coming in to be an Assistant Secretary of Commerce and my deputy. I must admit, my mind was thinking hesitancy, but my heart was thinking, okay, she's calling on behalf of President Obama. I'm currently serving at the pleasure of the President. This is really an extension of that obligation. I had the task of motivating our workforce to move to St. Elizabeth's property over in Anacostia. We started working with Mayor Gray at the time, the city council. It was council member Berry. There are bridges that are built that continue today with the outreach that we make to the schools and some of the other things that we're doing over there. One of the things I like about NOAA is it gives me a venue, an opportunity, a platform, and a strong mission to sort of pay it forward and to teach people about leadership and about how to do difficult things in a difficult environment.
Seeking out resources, staying open to opportunities, and keeping your focus on the mission is how you can become one of those successful veterans in transition. I'm Jim Benson. Thank you for watching.